Well, hey, I'm here with Caroline Cotto. She is the COO at Renewal Mill, and I, first came into contact with Renewal Mill through a startup CPG event. And Caroline, I was just so interested in what you had to say at that event that I thought it'd be great to just sit down and talk with you a little bit more about some of the challenges you faced and how you thought through them. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, let's just start kicking this off. For people that aren't familiar with Renewal Mill, which is a startup, what is Renewal Mill and what do you do?
Yeah, so Renewal Mill is what we call a next generation ingredients company. So our mission is to reduce global food loss and fight climate change by upcycling the byproducts of food manufacturing into premium ingredients and finished plant-based products. So that's a lot of buzzwords. We basically are making sure that 100% of the food that we produce is used. And our first ingredient comes from the soybean pulp left over when you make soy milk, and we turn it into a high fiber gluten-free flour.
Okay. So you basically say, what are the foods that are being made or processed? What's left over? And then how can we build that into an ingredient that somebody want to use in their kitchen?
Exactly, yeah. There's a lot of things in our food system where there's inefficiencies and people are kind of arbitrarily labeling this stuff as waste, when in fact it's the most nutritious part of some of the food products, and we're able to capture 100% of that nutrition.
Yeah, and it sounds like as well the products you're creating tend to be made for somebody that might be gluten-free or vegan or things like that. Is that accurate as well?
Yeah, so upcycled ingredients have a lot of benefits. They happen to align really well with a lot of the top trends in food. So our ingredients are gluten-free, grain-free, organic, non-GMO, plant-based, really low carb. So yeah, hitting on a lot of different people for specialty diets.
Good stuff. And then I'm thinking now, I'm like rewinding. If we were to rewind 8 weeks ago, so pre-COVID-19, pre-work from home, everything getting shut down, what was Renewal Mill's business model, or how were you going to market or planning to go to market? What was your goal?
Yeah, so we've always had a split business model. We're an ingredients company, so we're selling ingredients business to business as inputs for both small and emerging brands, and then also larger companies. But we also use our own ingredients in our own branded CPG products to raise awareness about upcycled ingredients and do some revenue generating marketing. So prior to COVID, we had been mostly selling our soft-baked Okara cookie product to food service for like large tech companies here in the Bay Area as office snacks. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big share of our revenue prior to COVID, as well as ingredients for commercial kitchens.
Okay, so commercial kitchens but really food service have been your main revenue stream.
Yeah.
That's a genius to say that's a problem whenever people are buying office buildings. So, I mean, what did you shift, or how did you think about responding to this challenge?
Yeah, so we're really lucky in that right now people are doing a lot of baking, and our main products are flour, and we had just been about to launch our new brownie mix product at Expo West, which is the largest food trade show of the year, which also coincided right with the beginning of the coronavirus lockdown. So we saw a real opportunity to sort of pivot into online grocery, e-commerce, retail, and direct to consumer, in order to replace our food service losses. And our co-packer for the cookies was actually affected by COVID. So we had to also switch the main products we were selling to our baking mix products, which has been great because people are doing more baking right now. But yeah, a pretty significant pivot.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like to your point, as people transition to home, I saw, I make bread, for example, and I couldn't find yeast on the shelves at all,
right,
for a couple of weeks. So you're in a position in which people are, I guess, open to using those ingredients in a way that they hadn't been before. It's interesting. You talk about, hey, online, e-commerce, DTC, a lot of different routes that you can go. Like, when did you sit back and say, okay, we got a problem on the horizon, or maybe we're in the midst of a problem? Identify these routes and then start picking. Did you start picking where you're going to make your bets in a sense? How did that process work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the loss of food service was pretty immediate, to be honest. It was like, oh, that is now not an option. So we need to figure out what to do. And I think my initial gut reaction was to find our affinity groups. So our products are vegan. We have strong affinity with the vegan community. And so there is very clear link with platforms like Vegan Essentials and Billion Vegans. And then we also are, we were trying to get into retailers, but if you weren't already having shelf space in retailers prior to COVID-19, they pretty much stopped all product category reviews. But we did have some opportunity through sort of smaller platforms that were targeting smaller retailers who, maybe their baking aisle was completely decimated and they're willing to try whatever. So things like Hubba and Mabel that are really targeting those smaller retailers, and they were able to onboard us really quickly to those platforms. So it was a little bit of a spaghetti at the wall strategy to say, like, which one of these is going to stick? Where are we going to find our users, and then put all of our effort behind that. So we also had been running our website mostly on Squarespace. We needed to switch that to Shopify. So just lots of little things to make the consumer journey easier during this time, and survive.
Yeah, and I think what you said was pretty interesting, which is about finding your affinity groups, right? You already have what we said earlier, this vegan or alternative ingredients, in a sense, versus just flour. And so there's already a group out there that sees value. And so
Totally.
it's really about, like, how do we connect with people that are naturally going to see value versus, trying to sell at this stage an unfamiliar ingredient to somebody that doesn't know how to use it.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we see people with mission alignment too. So we've been really lucky to sell through Imperfect Foods and Misfits Market, which are both fellow food waste warriors working towards that goal, and are also members of the Upcycled Food Association with us. And so leaning into that platform has been really helpful versus just a general online grocery store that's kind of catering to more conventional brands.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, these moves, because I think these moves probably would have come, regardless of COVID, in a sense. Like, you probably in the back of your mind knew beyond food service, you had to start entering these categories to be successful. And I thought in some cases of COVID-19 as being an accelerant in many cases. If you're in a bad business situation, it can accelerate your decline. Such as, retailers, they're shutting down, like JCPenney, for example, bankruptcy, right? It accelerated what was already a declining business. And it sounds like here, it just did the opposite for you in some ways. It accelerated your move into channels that you kind of knew you had to be into, but weren't maybe paying the bills immediately, which
Totally.
is why the day-to-day focus wouldn't have been there. I'm curious, as you look forward and you think about these changes you've made, what are you going to keep moving forward? Like, what has worked out that you're just going to, double down on, for lack of a better term, and what hasn't worked out in some ways, if anything, that you think, we'll leave behind. It just wasn't a great move.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to double down on some of these online grocery platforms. So we just launched this week on Good Eggs, which is a San Francisco-based grocery delivery company that we think our audience aligns really well with. So I think it's really honing down. We've been doing a lot of work on exactly who our audience is, doing a lot of consumer surveys right now, figuring out, okay, where do they actually shop online, and is that different than where they might shop in person? And then putting our effort behind those specific platforms rather than just any kind of e-commerce platform. And I think we will continue to heavily focus that. We're also going to continue to grow our direct-to-consumer business, which has been a learning journey so far. I think as a company without a lot of marketing dollars to put behind paid ads, it's definitely tough to compete in that space right now. And so figuring out, like, what is the secret sauce that really gets people to convert in a D2C environment is something we're continuing to tweak and work on, and hope that will continue to grow over the next 12 to 24 months as we continue through this COVID world.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. And it even, even within the DTC space, you have your own website, right, which you're working on. But, in the meantime, you're still driving awareness through those affinity groups and channel partners and things like that you created.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, so last question, I guess, like 12 months from now, like where are you perceiving your kind of business to be settled, into? I'm sure a percentage of it's going to still be, hopefully the office supplies, once office opens up, or office food, but you've also created these new channels that it sounds like you're going to spend some time growing. Do you have any sort of goals for how those would break down, or the total portfolio within your business?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, Renewal Mill is still an ingredients company first. We're going to continue to really double down on our partnerships with small and emerging brands that are willing to move fast and fail fast and use our ingredients.
Yep.
And we're still about 18 months into a 3-year sales cycle for larger companies using our ingredients. So still very much pushing all of those conversations forward. I think that is really going to be our main goal. We are using CPG as a buoy through COVID, but we will continue to put a lot of resources behind, I think, these new channels, because we don't see a world returning. Like, we know a lot of the offices here in San Francisco aren't coming back, until the end of 2020, maybe even until 2021 or later, or maybe never. They've seen that they can work entirely remote. And so we're figuring out, like, how do we reach those same end users potentially through these new channels? Maybe that's through subscription boxes instead of delivering to their office, but we're still able to, we know that those people are fans of Renewal Mill. And so it's just figuring out how to reach them most efficiently right now.
No, makes a lot of sense. Like, stay focused on the long-term goal while still knowing you have this buoy system, to use your term, to keep you going.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess last thing, shameless plug for Renewal Mill. If somebody says, hey, this is pretty neat, I want to get involved, how do they find you? I think we've probably talked about it, but where's not with, what should they be looking for?
You can find us at renewalmill.com or on any of the social media platforms at Renewal Mill. We'd love you to give our new brownie mix a try. It's a just add water and oil, vegan, gluten-free, upcycled brownie mix, and we think it's pretty good. So it's a perfect way to treat your family during this time, or if you have kids, bake with your kids.
Yeah, upcycle brownie days. I like it. Renewalmill.com. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Caroline, for spending some time with me and just talking through your decision-making process and where you're going. I think it's exciting, and I appreciate you sharing your insights.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really, really appreciate you reaching out, and happy to be here.